Let's worship the King today, can we? Heaven thundered and the world was born. Life begins and ends in the dust you form. Faith commanded and the mountains move. Fear is losing ground to our hope in you. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Freedom conquered, all our chains undone. Sin defeated, Jesus has overcome. Mercy triumphed when the third day dawned. Darkness was denied when the storm was gone. Oh, unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Lord, you're unstoppable. There's nothing too hard for you, God. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. There's nothing impossible for you, God. So we're lifting our praises to you. You're unstoppable. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Oh, you're so great, God. Nothing impossible for you. Yeah. Oh. If my heart is overwhelmed and I cannot hear your voice, I'll hold on to what is true, though I cannot see. If the storms of life they come and the road ahead gets steep, I will lift these hands in faith. I will believe. I remind myself of all that you've done and the life I have because of your Son.
every promise comes my way. When I feel your hands of grace rest upon me, Lord, I'm staying desperate for you, God. I'm staying humbled at your feet, and I will lift these hands and praise you, God. I will believe, oh, 'cause I remind myself of all that you've done. Thank you, Lord. And the life I have because of your Son.
Your love came down and rescued me. Love came down and set me free. I am yours. I am forever yours. Mountains high, a valley low. I'll sing out, remind my soul. I am yours. I am forever yours. I am yours. I am yours. All my days, Jesus, I am yours. I am yours. I am yours. All my days, Jesus, I am yours. Say, I am yours. I am yours. All my days, Jesus, I am yours. Say, I am yours. I am yours for all my days. Jesus, I am yours. Oh, your love came down and rescued me. Love came down and set me free. I am yours. I am forever yours. The mountains high, a valley low. I sing out, remind my soul. I am yours. I am forever yours. Say, I am yours. I am yours. All my days, Jesus, I am yours. I am yours. I am yours. I am yours. All my days, Jesus, I am yours. Say, love came down and rescued me. Love came down and set me free. I am yours. Oh, love came down and rescued me. Love came down and set me free. I am yours. I am forever yours.
Welcome to part 4 of our perspective series. It's 6 parts that we've been into. We've been talking about the treasure principle. Where your heart is, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We've talked about being in debt. The second week we talked about having a goal and a clear direction, and that everything belongs to God. And we've talked about debt. Every week we've talked about debt because it's such a big deal. And so we talked about debt last week. And this week what we want to do is take a whole nother kind of journey into this discussion about where do finances fit in life's journey. Because we want to live in the black, not the red. We want to learn to be givers, not takers, lenders, not slaves. So there's a whole upside down perspective that Jesus is into. And today I want to talk to you about this. What do you do with your extra? And you're like, I don't have any extra. Oh, no. Everybody has extra. And you might be saying, that's a joke, But Jesus actually talks about your extra. And you do have some. You may think you don't, but he was talking he was speaking to really poor people, and he was still talking to them about extra. And it goes like this, if you're living indoors, the Bible says, and you're eating, you have extra. If you went to the movies or Starbucks, you have extra. If you have a car, you have extra. Most people in the world don't have a car. If you have a car, you have extra. If you own your home, you have lots of extra. If you saved up and bought a house, that's great for you. But the truth is, you have extra. Now, here's what I want you to do before you freak out. I want you to think about a new perspective. I want you to think like this. What do we do today? We trade up, don't we? We trade up on houses. We trade up on cars. The thing that you had, it still worked, but you wanted a newer model. This is everywhere in our culture today. You wanted a new watch. You wanted the new iPhone. You wanted the new extra. These are all extra things you don't have to have, but you choose to trade up and have. See, this is a different perspective, but it's a perspective Jesus chews into real deep and tries to get our attention. There's nothing that has more to do with perspective than this whole idea of extra. See, when you travel the world and you go into Cambodia or Nigeria, the Kibera slums in Kenya, you go, whoa, I have lots of extra. When you see people standing in a little shanty hallway and they're cooking their food on a little open fire in a pan, you realize I have extra. When I go down to CityLink, friends, and I work with people who are in line for food, I realize I have extra. My view, my perspective changes. We never see this more than when we take our teams overseas, and it just changes your perspective forever. All perspective on our stuff has to deal with how much is ours, how much is his, what is our standard of living versus other people's standard of living. It's all something that we have ingrained in us, but we don't realize how deeply it's ingrained in us. We all have a perspective on our standard of living and our extra, but we don't realize it until we see somebody else's. So you look at somebody else's standard of living higher than yours, you think, I don't have any extra. People lower than yours, I have lots of extra. It's all perspective. When I go up to Bishop to hike, sometimes I'm struck by all the beautiful homes up on the side of the mountain there. And you know what's so interesting about it? There's nobody there. They're all extra homes. Most of the time, those homes are empty. And see, I'm not against extra homes, but I am for perspective. So let's talk about perspective. See, when I see beautiful homes, sometimes I go to Beverly Hills and do Shabbats with people, and I go into their home in Beverly Hills, and I think like this, wow, look at the elevator for their food that comes downstairs. This is crazy. They have waiters all over the place. I think like this, I don't have any extra. But when you go to some other place like Nigeria or Kenya or Cambodia, you think, I have lots of extra. It's all perspective. When I go to somebody's house that has like Beverly Hills or even some other place that has higher ceilings than my house or different doors than my doors, and I think, why don't I have one of these? I need one of these. It's all perspective. And see, what perspective guides your life when it comes to your finances? That's the question Jesus wants to ask us. What perspective guides our life when it comes to our finances? My culture tells me all the time that I don't have enough. That's every single advertisement tells me I don't have enough. They never say, look at what you do have, look at what you do have. They always tell me I don't have enough. And so they always make me feel like I don't have any extra, but I do have extra, and so do you. What you decide to do with your extra really reflects on your heart and your relationship with your Father. Jesus says it's an indication of who controls your heart, what you do with your extra. See, let's talk about the verses we're going to jump into here for a minute. They came from Jesus right to people who had less than us. They were controlled by Romans. Romans occupied them. But see, we don't get this part. They paid heavy taxes. And still, he talked to them about their extra. If you got a Bible, an iPad, a phone, turn to Luke 12:14. There's a story here in Luke 12:14 to 21. And Jesus says this, starts off with an exclamation point, watch out. Be on your guard. Okay, that's really strong language, friend. Watch out, be on your guard. He's talking to people that want to live with God, walk with God. He says, you got to watch out. You got to be on your guard. And what are you on your guard against? You're on your guard against all kinds of greed. All kinds of greed. Life does not consist in abundance of your possessions, of stuff. And then he told them a story. He told them a story about a rich man who had a huge harvest. And he thought to himself, what should I do with my harvest? I don't have anywhere to put all my crops. And then he said to himself, I know what I'll do. I'm going to build myself some bigger barns and bigger barns and bigger barns, and I'm going to store up my surplus. And see, here's what he was thinking. I got extra, and I'm keeping my extra. I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain. It's laid up for years. Take care of yourself. Take care of your kids. Take care of their kids. Everybody's okay. All of myself is okay. Take care. And then Jesus put it this way, take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, oh, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. And then what will you get from all that you prepared for yourself? So let's start there and walk backwards. For yourself. Yourself. Jesus is really trying to say, you're not supposed to just be for yourself. You're supposed to be for the Father and the other people that the Father points you to. You're supposed to be otherly. And if all of your extra goes to yourself, something's wrong with the picture. Jesus says in verse 21, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Rich towards God means that you use your extra for others. Jesus is making a huge statement here. Life doesn't consist in abundance of possessions. And these people were poor. They just had a little bit of stuff, and their life was their possessions, and that was all they had. And he says, beware, be on guard, because greed will get you. And life is more than that stuff. He has so much. What's he going to do with what he has? Share it? No. He's going to build more to take care of more of himself. So I can take care of myself, my grandchildren. I have enough to consume now, enough to consume later, and they'll have enough to consume way down the road. We're just going to consume. And Jesus says, oh boy, you're a fool. You're not going to consume anymore, because tomorrow your stuff's going to belong to somebody else. And really the truth is, with all of our stuff, someday it'll all belong to somebody else. And see, friends, I've traveled all over the world, seen the poorest people in the world, and I watch God prosper them, make their crops bigger, better. I watched the Ebon people, their pepper farms. When they would give their lives to Christ, I would watch their pepper farms. Their harvest would be better than other people. But it wasn't about better or bigger, friends. It was about a love from God. It was about not a promise that you're going to have more if God bless you, because I know a lot of poor people that don't have more when God is blessing them and bringing life to them. But the truth is, he often does that. The question Jesus is trying to get us to frame up, the perspective he's trying to get us to take, is how do you see your stuff? That's what Jesus is talking about. He said, this guy's a fool. But friends, the truth is, this guy looks really smart. This guy looks really smart. He looks really smart in front of all of his friends. He's probably invited to do seminars for other farmers on how to be a great farmer. But God says you're a fool. The world might think you're brilliant, but you bought a lie. You bought a lie that your stuff is your life, and it's not. For you to consume it now or later, it's all yours. It's not. Most of us, friends, are going to run out of time before we run out of money. I want you to think about that. You're going to run out of time before you run out of money. Most Americans run out of time before they run out of money. And you got to figure this out. Jesus is asking us a really important question. Who's going to get your stuff? So don't lose perspective over your stuff. Jesus' last statement is so crucial. This is how it will be. He's really saying this is how it will be for everybody. If your stuff is your life, you're going to lose it all. The loss is total and complete. For anybody who stores up their stuff just for themselves, Jesus is saying, you're not wise. You need to be more careful. It's not all for you. You've got to be rich towards God. That's what verse 33 and 34 is about. You're rich towards God. So sell some of your stuff. Not all of it, but some of it. Sell your extra. Give it to other people. Share. Look for places to bring life and to bless. Do it to the least of these, the Bible says, and you do it unto me. God loves the poor and the needy. We build schools and churches all over the world. Just the only thing that limits what we do is money. The truth is that where your treasure is, your heart will follow. If you put your treasure into church buildings and schools and the poor, your heart will go there, friends. You'll want to go overseas and visit the people you're feeding and care for the kids that you're taking care of. This is just the journey. So really, let's ask a hard question. This is a hard question. How much money have you given away this year? We all think we're super generous. I gave 100, 1,000, but I'll tell you something about God. He's not impressed with numbers because he never speaks about numbers in the Bible. He always speaks about percentages. Like, what percent of your income did you give away? The average American today gives away 1%, maybe 2%. It's like 1.3 or something like that. And we think that we're really generous people. We aren't. Most of us are not generous. We're consumers. We consume for ourselves and for the people around us. You got to think like this. Set a goal of how much you want to give away. Set a goal of how generous you want to be. If you don't trust me at Water of Life or us here, don't give it to us. Find someplace else to give it. If you think that I'm after your money, because I'm not after your money. I'm after your life being godly, being a disciple, figuring out how you do this. You have to pre-decide, friends. You have to pre-decide to be rich towards God. You're not going to be rich towards God because it just flies in on your radar. You got to pre-decide. You got to be intentional. What I do with my extra really reflects whether or not my life consists of my possessions or not. Your life does not consist of your possessions, Jesus says, in the abundance of your stuff. So stop living like it does and start learning to be generous. Set a goal. Set a goal. That's a huge thing for you to think about, isn't it? Talk about it today. Set a goal of what percentage of your income. And I'm going to talk about this in the next couple of messages about percentages because Jesus does. He talks about the little lady who comes in with the widow's mite and says she gave more than all the rich people. It was about percentages. It wasn't about the widow's mite or the tons of money that the rich people dropped in. It was about their heart. Like, is your heart yielded? That's the goal in the whole journey for us. So I hope that you're growing. I hope it's stretching you, but I hope it's life-giving. I hope you're getting free, that you can be free indeed. So I'll see you next week. We're pulling up on week 5 next week. We've got a great ending to this series. God bless you. Have a great time today.